Buonasera a tutti. Good evening, y'all. It is the 28th, Thursday, the 28th of August. How are y'all doing? And glad to be back.
August.
Yeah, that's it's just tradition at this point. Glad to be back on this Thursday evening, talking all things baseball, football, and anything else that develops. We obviously, once again today, I feel like we're hitting 1,000 on this one, having a late breaking development in professional sports that radically changed our schedule. What else is new? Thank you, Jerry Jones. First time I've ever thanked you as an Eagles fan.
GM Jerry.
Okay. Um,
Come on.
I couldn't even hear what you were saying.
I said GM Jerry.
Oh, okay, GM Jerry. I only heard the Jerry part. Anyway, uh, looking forward to getting into it all tonight over the next 60 minutes. I got to introduce everybody. I got to go around the horn. Mr. Brandon Furtado, the guy who helped really bring this thing to a new level. The guy who, once we had our first episode, I said, this is the guy I want on the show. Bringing him and all of his unique insights on the Yankees and all else tonight. Brandon, how you doing, my brother?
That's the first time you're giving me an introduction like that, Scoop. So I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm doing good. Feeling good. Hopefully, when it comes to the Yankees, let's get another sweep this series, shall we?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I again, very, very accurate and very succinct. Two things, or at least the latter of which I continue to try and work on this show. I can learn a thing or two from you, and of course, my longtime buddy, Mr. Jay Cruger, a guy who always has more energy than anybody else that I know, and while I may call him one of the kindest people I know, that certainly comes a little bit, the mask comes off a little bit when it comes to sports. So I look forward to hearing his thoughts tonight. Oh, bro, you don't even get me started. You're the one who was telling us the other day you wanted the Yankees to miss the postseason intentionally.
No, I could have sworn I just heard you say I'm one of the kindest people.
Oh, that's what you were questioning. I thought when I said it doesn't happen in sports, I thought you were like offended that I said it's not the same in sports.
Oh no! That's the accurate part. Like one of the kindest people I've met. Oh, geez, with friends like yours, who needs enemies then?
Anyway, wow, what a heck of an intro segment that was. And we're gonna jump right in. We got a lot to talk about baseball-wise tonight, but of course, as I mentioned, two of the most historic franchises in the NFL got together today and over the last few days gave us a new topic to talk about. Just before 3 p.m. Central Time, we started to hear that it trickling out that Micah Parsons, the famed linebacker, is going to the Green Bay Packers. I had to wait a little bit before I said anything to anybody because I've gotten so many people over the last week or two, either intentionally or inadvertently, telling me that he was going to this team or the other team, and I don't know what to believe anymore. So but we did eventually get confirmation from Ian Rappaport. He is going to the Packers. In return, in my opinion, the Cowboys actually did fairly well in this return for somebody who had made it very clear that he didn't want to be there anymore, and thus, pretty much, in my opinion, I thought they had very little leverage, so I thought they did quite well with this return. Veteran, three-time Pro Bowler, defensive lineman Kenny Clark, and 2 first-round picks are going back to Jerry's world. So, excuse me, I'll go around the horn, and the first question I'll ask is, I'm not going to ask, do you like this fit for Green Bay? I'll ask, do you think this was the best team for him to go to of the teams that were considered realistic? Because obviously I know we would have loved him on Philly, but I think Jerry could have taken an asteroid through the brain and not sent him to Philadelphia. So with that being said, Brandon, do you think this is the best fit for him? Should he have stayed in Dallas? Should he have gone somewhere else?
When I look at it, I mean, he was going to go to a contender, and it wasn't going to be in the AFC because the AFC is too loaded. When you look at the NFC, you've got Philly, you've got Detroit, basically the NFC North, minus Chicago, and then you've got Washington. But he wasn't going to go to the NFC East, so you can rule that out. NFC South, no, there's no contenders there. NFC West was maybe the only fit, but the Rams don't need defensive line help. Seattle, maybe, but Seattle's not a contender the way Green Bay is, the way Green Bay has been the last 2 years. So, and I mean, Detroit, no. Detroit's got Aiden Hutchinson. That probably wouldn't have worked off the edge. So when it boils down to it, I think when you kind of start, just by checking off boxes for teams, really, I think Green Bay probably is the best fit. They've needed a real pass rusher to close out games, like because defensively they haven't been able to close out games that well in the last few years, especially in the playoffs. Kenny Clark was a good tackle for them, but I mean last year wasn't great. Year before he was good. But I think what Green Bay is getting, they're getting a difference maker on that defensive line. I mean, obviously we know who Micah Parsons is. I just think that's gonna. I think it's gonna just give them a little bit more of a step up than where they've been. I think that move can help them compete with Detroit, and it can really cause havoc on what Minnesota is trying to do. Because if Micah Parsons is chasing down JJ McCarthy, it's gonna be a long season for Minnesota. Same thing with Caleb Williams in Chicago. So, Green Bay has a chance to, and honestly, with Detroit not having two coordinators, and now bringing over Micah Parsons for Green Bay's side of things, Green Bay, if they just get some consistency out of their wide receivers, they could win that division. And that's definitely a move that you make if you feel that you are pretty much going to be a contender for the next few years, which Green Bay obviously feels they are. So, especially in a wide open NFC. So, I definitely think Green Bay is a good landing spot for him. The only question is really with him, is he going to disappear the second half of the season like he always does? Because if he does, then Green Bay is not getting much of anything. I mean, they're getting a better player than what they've had in a long time on that D line and that front seven. But you're not. If he disappears in the second half of the year when you're trying to make a big, playoff push and trying to win games come playoff time, then what are you really getting out of it? So it's all just up to Micah at this point. I think it's a good fit. I think a change of scenery will do him good since he wanted to pretty much go to a contender, and someone like that deserves to go to a real contender. But it's just second half of the season. What are you going to get? That's the big question mark. But other than that, I think the Packers did good, and I think down Dallas' side of things, I think what they got back was pretty good, all things considering. So, but I think Green Bay needed that. That's going to give them that little extra push to really be a contender in the NFC.
I think that you broke that. That I really like how you broke that down, and kind of going through some of the other teams who could have potentially been in play, because obviously I know there's a good number of teams who could use a linebacking upgrade in the NFC, but like you said, many of them are not contenders, and thus we're likely not going to beat that level of an offer. So I think that was, again, I really like that. And then we'll go to Jay real quick before I get to some comments. Jay, do you agree with Brandon, or
Yeah, I totally do.
I think you told me that you thought he was going to Green Bay, so.
Yeah, and I think it makes the most sense. I mean, he joins Rashawn Gary as a very much needed running mate, if you will. I think Green Bay is trying to upgrade its defense. I think that was, the smart move. Brandon, I agree. The biggest issue is he going to disappear in the second half? But right now, I picked Green Bay to win their division, again, narrowly. I think this gives them, a little bit more momentum. What Dallas got back, I'm perplexed. This is why I like that. Why do you think I was hyped before Scoop took the wind out of my sails? Why do you think I was hyping up GM Jerry? Well, you didn't join the chant, Scoop.
This thing was skipping. I couldn't understand what you were saying.
You gotta fix your internet, dog. That's what you need to do. But no, I think it makes the defense in Green Bay a lot more solid. I think, again, Brandon, you're right. He probably only would have wanted to go to a contender, or probably only could have gone to a contender. Obviously, my second guess, and I know this is going to be a little out of left field, my second guess and the closest one I think would have been New England. But New England is not at that period right now. And they do want to upgrade their their defense too. Lord knows that they have the cap space, but again, they're not. At least I don't think, and you guys can step in if I'm wrong. They're not at the window yet where they're back into being even close into contender status. It's just not there. But so I think he's gonna enjoy Green Bay. I want to know how he does under different coaching and different management. He's not going to have an owner anymore that acts as a GM. But I mean, listen. Let's see how he thrives. I think he requested a trade for a reason. Maybe maybe he will show up in that second half now that he has probably a better organization compared to the Cowboys to play with.
Again, I think both of y'all touched on different but very important points. Jay, I know that you had said to me earlier that you meant that you anticipated that this would be a good fit for him. And I also think it goes to show, because we've talked about for a while how certain positions have been kind of undervalued in football when it comes to both getting paid in contracts and also the compensation that they warrant in trades. And I even though he's a linebacker, I think that the work that Micah can do as an edger, and I think the fact that he was rated as one of the top edgers this past season by Pro Football Focus and other similar evaluation firms, if you want to call them that. I don't have a great classification for them, but y'all know what I mean. And I think that his ability to do that and his versatility, and again, even if he does fall off a little bit at the end of the season, he's still going to put you in a position to get you to a spot down the stretch that not many other players would be able to do in that same way. I mean, not to bring up Philly here but you can make the argument that in the two biggest games at the end of last season, their guy who was there all season and circled around their offense all season in Saquon was almost a non-factor, but they don't get there without him. So I wonder if Micah could be a similar type player there, where maybe they don't get big production from him in a couple of the playoff games, but I don't know wherever they get to this season. I'm guessing that their ceiling is going to be significantly higher with him back there, along, like you said, along Rashawn Gary and company. Going to jump into our comments quickly. Mr. Burns says, watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. Glad Micah gone to the Packers. Excuse me. He says the only person Jerry likes paying is Dak. LOL. I don't know. Maybe his son Steven. Maybe his son Steven also. But it says Packers overpaid him. I think Parsons will make as much as Pat Mahomes now. That's insanity. Now, if he gets 20 sacks and they win the Super Bowl, then it was probably worth it. Dallas got played. A sports fan like me can't catch a break. It literally lights up my soul. Finally, Green Bay just got a lot better and tougher, and Dallas just punted this season away. I'll be honest. I thought that they did that when they hired Brian Schottenheimer, but I'm sorry. Even if you don't think McCarthy is your long-term coach, if you're going to be in a position where you don't think you're going to do something huge this season, at least let McCarthy get one more year, do the best coaching job that he can so that he can interview for teams next year. I'm not saying that teams or coaches owe each other things when the contract's expired necessarily, but there's no way in my mind that Mike McCarthy would have done a worse coaching job this season than will Brian Schottenheimer. That's no respect to Brian Schottenheimer. No disrespect to Brian Schottenheimer, excuse me, but let's just call it what it is. I don't see a world in which that was an upgrade. So, I don't think that you can make an argument, whatever argument you want to make in his favor. I don't think you can argue the Cowboys made themselves more of a playoff threat this year with him. So this kind of move doesn't surprise me at all. Even when Jerry made that, we'll say, controversial interview about a week ago where he basically said, I'm glad that we have Micah for 3 years. I'm glad that we have Micah for 3 years, basically hinting he'll use the franchise tag as long as he can get away with it. I still thought that a move was necessary for both sides. And for the sake of Micah, of whom I've always been, respective of him and as a person and as a player. I'm glad that he was able to get to a place that I think is going to utilize his talent as more likely of an opportunity to be part of something great. Graham says there's only a few players worth what Parsons got. Parsons, Surtain, and Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable group to put together, or to name those guys. The maybe a little bit of bias in me, but thinks that one of the defensive backs on Philly deserves to be in that. One of those two young guys that we have deserves to be in that similar conversation.
You could throw Myles Garrett in there, T.J. Watt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So excuse me. So I do think that my list for that might be a little bit longer, but I certainly understand why you put those three there. And I will point out the fact that it's not being biased because Graham also himself is a Broncos fan, mentioning Surtain there. So I'm not being any more biased by mentioning one of our defensive backs than he is. And Graham is all love. And that being said, moving off of that, let's get into some baseball. And the question that I have to start off this show is, in the words of, to paraphrase at least, in my opinion, the greatest rapper of all time, Mr. Marshall Mathers himself, will the real New York Yankees please stand up? Because I never know what I'm watching with this team. They fold like lawn chairs against anybody that they're actually going to see in October, but they feast so aggressively on literally anybody else that it's like, okay, you can't be that bad of a team. Like, if you're just squeaking out, narrow, runs or narrow games against, the Nationals, whoever else you want to put in there, the Rays, then fine. They are making mincemeat of these other teams that they're facing. Yeah. So it's like, I'm sorry, you can convince me that this team is maybe deserves to be called a pretender. You can't convince me this is a bad baseball team. You just can't at this point. It's, bad baseball teams, I don't care what division you're in, bad baseball teams don't go to 13 over 500 after having a month of being the worst team in baseball. So anyway, so I don't know what to make of this team. I don't know what to expect with this team. I genuinely, you could tell me that they missed the playoffs. You could tell me that they met Houston or Detroit in the ALCS and took it to a Game 7. Honestly, neither one would surprise me at this point with the way that this team looks. The Orioles. And I meant to say the Tigers.
Oh, I was about to say, I'm just like, you all right, dude?
I either said the Tigers or Detroit, or at least that's what I meant to say. If I said the Orioles, I significantly apologize for that. But
you significantly apologize as opposed to like lightly.
And I called you one of the kindest
as opposed to half-hearted, I guess.
And I called you one of the kindest people I know. But yeah. Anyway, so back over to some baseball. I'll start with the Yankees real quick. On this note, however, did get some. In my opinion, it's sad news today. At least just as a fan who knows that he was a fan favorite for a period of time, just could not stay healthy. John Loaisiga was in fact shut down for the season, with him being set to hit free agency. There is a good chance, in my opinion, a very good chance that he's not going to be throwing another pitch for the Yankees. The fans loved him. He was money when he was healthy. The problem is that was just so few and far between. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into kind of a Nate Eovaldi type situation where once he, gets a little bit healthy from this and he gets to kind of rebound in another situation, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of has a second wind to his career. He's not that old of a player. And we've seen plenty of pitchers in this day and age who really are able to get that second wind well into their 30s, let alone, where he is right now. So, but unfortunately, it does look like that era is coming to an end in New York. So just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know a lot of fans are ready to be done with him, and I understand that. I still think that there's a good pitcher in there. And, again, you don't get the nickname Johnny Lasagna by being useless in New York. So got to give some respect to that. I will be having a lasagna this weekend in his honor. Real quick, back to these, and I'm going to get back to the two of y'all. Graham says, Audric Estime is still going to the Eagles, or just some roster management the Eagles have to do. Yeah, that's what I figured. because I know it came out last night or yesterday that Estime was the running back waived by the Broncos was going to the Eagles, and then it was kind of leaked today that he wasn't on their practice squad list, and people were kind of like, "What was going on?" I reached out to a few people that I have connected to, and it does seem like that's pretty much it's basically it's the Howie special, it's the cap maneuvering, roster maneuvering. I expect him to be back before too long. It could be within the next couple of days. But I do expect Estime to eventually be on the practice squad, and I hope we see him in sometime this season because I do know that a lot of my Broncos fan friends who watched him a lot more than I did, I do know there was a good number of them who were pretty high on him last year. What in the world? He says if the Yankees are going to continue to stick with Volpe, which apparently they are, they need to get him back on track. And by on track, I mean he needs to contribute, steal some bases, a hit there, and steady defense. What better team than the White Sox to hopefully get him jump-started with confidence going with Astros, Blue Jays, and Tigers looming? Volpe will need some production. And then he says, LOL, that's funny. I'm not quite sure what he's referencing, but I am curious what he meant there and who he meant. So, yeah, I'll ask this question, and I think that kind of springboards me. I am so sorry. Me into a question that I wasn't planning to ask, but I'll ask just because I think it fits perfectly right now with the segue we're going to make. I'll leave it open-ended. How would you handle Volpe the rest of this season? If you were, whether it's in Aaron Boone's position, in an assistant coach's position, whatever, it doesn't have to be a specific area. Would you? I don't even know if he has options left, but would you option him to AAA and try and get him figured out down there? But again, like I said, I'll leave it open-ended. Brandon,
it's an interesting topic because honestly, and I think he does have options though. I think he has a chance to go down to AAA, which is why I don't understand why they haven't done this why they haven't done it already far sooner. I don't know what more you need to see or what point you need to prove to see that he just can't turn it around right now.
Yeah.
But or maybe it's just that foolish New York pride that you don't want to admit that you're wrong, or that the guy needs more time.
Yeah.
But it's a tough spot. At this point, you're obviously not going to send him down, not with 30 games left, not even left in the season.
Something like that.
So that's not happening this year. Even though honestly, I don't even want him for next year. At this point, you can't. I don't think you can send him down just because it's too late in the season. You should have sent him down halfway, probably even before the All-Star break. You should have sent him down. But or at least, and definitely after once you got Caballero, because Caballero can play, and we know that. And he's proven it in the chances that he's got to start over Volpe. He's been far better, which isn't a high bar to clear, but still, he's been far better. And
right.
He's more of a threat on the bases than Volpe is. For some reason this year, when I watch Volpe run the bases, he looks 10 times slower than his rookie season.
All of his ratings about base running and speed and defense, all of them have declined no matter what you look at.
I don't know what happened because he's younger than even we are. I don't get, how he's gotten to be that slow around the bases. He's getting thrown out a lot at second before, in his rookie year, he wasn't getting thrown out like that. I'm just trying to think of from a hitting standpoint. I mean, I've said this really since the start of last series when they said that they were going to bench him. I'm like, well, just leave Caballero in there because he's doing such a great job. He's putting the ball in play. He's making it tough on defenders with his speed. He's got a little bit of pop in the bat. He's a competitor. He's a pest, which I like. I like guys that get that, are not afraid to get dirty like that.
Yeah.
He even stole a base, and I don't even think I've seen that in my years.
That was ridiculous.
Stole a base without even a guy throwing a pitch.
Yeah.
That's I don't think I've ever seen that. So it's he's doing things that we've been wanting to see out of Volpe. Well, at least not that last part. That part's rare, super rare. But he's been doing things in this lineup when he's gotten chances. He's gotten the most, out of his chances that he's gotten to play. As long as he's not, well, because in right field he only had a mistake when he first came over. That first game, the ball goes through his legs, not paying attention, whatnot. But it's but since that point, he's been nothing but just. You could say he's the best. He's the best pickup that we had at the deadline. And you're not going to find a guy like that. To me, is so valuable just because this is a guy that can steal 50 bases in a season. This is a guy that will make it tough on defenses to make a tough play. He'll hit that because it's like that chopper, that weak chopper, that weak ball that Anthony Volpe was trying to pull to third base. Like, to me, Caballero's speed, we've seen already in the games he's played that he'll hit a weak chopper to the left side of the field, beat it out, or he'll make it tough on defense. They'll throw the ball away, and he'll go to second on an error.
Yeah, he'll make him rush the play, and he'll kind of speed up the play of the game. Unfortunately, much to the chagrin of Rob Manfred, much to the delight of Rob Manfred, I have that backwards. He'll speed up the play of the game.
Yeah, like speed kills. So it's like to me, when you have a guy that is putting the ball in play, that is, he's not a significantly better fielder, but he's a better fielder than Volpe. And when he's got just that kind of when he's a real gamer type of guy, those are guys you can't leave in the lineup and just like find a day here or a day there. They've got to get playing time. They have to, especially if you're going to make a postseason push, because I don't see it with that. Volpe was the only reason why I think why Volpe hasn't been sent down yet is just because they like what they saw. He was our best World Series hitter last year. It's like, but it's a small sample size. The rest of his career has been in nothing but a decline since his rookie year. Batting average, OPS, everything is just in the gutter. Every metric's down, and I think they even said that in the last since like the deadline or in the last month or so, that out of like 88 qualified shortstops, he's like 87th in a lot of different metrics. Like, I think it's like hitting, fielding.
Yeah.
It's not good. That can't be on a team. That's going to be a postseason team, and B, it's the New York Yankees. That's unacceptable.
Yep.
So this can't be allowed to continue. To me, Caballero has to get the bulk of not even the bulk, like 90% of these games coming up should be Jose Caballero at second, because not at short. So because it can't keep going on this way. It's been too long of this, because even in the National Series, they're scoring 9, 10, 11 runs. He's not contributing to any of it, none of it. So and often every time I watch a game, how many innings is he the last out at the plate? Every single game.
I remember a couple of days ago we had that one inning where we scored I think 9 runs it was, and I think the only one who didn't get on that inning was Volpe.
Yeah, and it's like that's another problem too. Is like when he came up as a rookie, he didn't have the world's greatest eye at the plate, but early on his eye was decent. He was working walks, working counts. He doesn't work counts at all anymore. He was
always looked at a little bit more for his bat than his defense, which is one of the myriad reasons why I was thinking you put him at second and Peraza at short back then. Which, by the way, I don't know if y'all saw that, but Peraza had to pitch in the Anaheim game the other day and served up a home run to Kyle Higashioka. I thought I was in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, but it's so
sorry,
tough. No, I'm just saying it's just because I don't want to take I've already taken a little too long on the Volpe point, but to me, Jose Caballero, I've said it now since the start of the last series, that's got to be the starting shortstop going forward. Just everything he does is far better than Volpe right now. And you can't worry. And they've even said it on the broadcast, and even I've heard on other podcasts and everybody talking about this situation right now. They're all saying the same thing. You cannot worry about a player's feelings getting hurt. Him and Aaron Boone are close. I guess Aaron Boone looks on the
I would argue that you're hurting him, even hurting his feelings or whatever. I would argue you're hurting him more by letting him go out there and get the crap beaten out of him every night.
Yeah, and getting booed by the fans every time you're up at the plate. Like it's not helping. I can't see in any scenario where, even if he is somebody who needs a little bit more gentler approach, which I know people don't want to hear that, but even if he is somebody who needs that this can't be exactly helping that.
Like it's like there's like, again, if it were a team like, let's say the White Sox or the Pirates or wherever, but it was a team where like he regressed, but like there was a ton of young players and the expectations were low or whatever, but he's sticking out like a sore thumb because nobody else is. I mean, we've got players who are low, who are struggling a little bit here and there. It is not as bad as Volpe.
Yeah, and really, it's. I mean, the only other player that's struggling just as bad as him is really it's his buddy. It's Austin Wells. So
I don't even agree with that all that much. And you know, at the plate, I'll agree with you. But what have we always said? A couple of positions, you look at defense, you know, over offense. And in terms of pitch framing and blocking this year, he's very good. I have not had the problem with Austin Wells that other people have had. I did for a little bit there when his defense was also struggling. But, I mean, you can really tell that in the brief time that they overlapped on the roster that Jose Trevino really left an impact on this guy, it seems, because his pitch framing was not considered one of his highest marks in the minor leagues, to the point where we thought that Wells was going to be either a first baseman or a corner outfielder. And I think that I'm guessing that Trevino deserves some credit for that.
Yeah.
Jay, I'll kick this over to you now.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty far past, and I can't even really say why we're pretty far past the point of optioning Volpe if he does have options. Brandon, I agree.
Welcome, by the way.
Huh?
I'm going to double check on that while you're talking.
Yeah, Brandon, I agree. I think Caballero needs to be getting most of the time at shortstop right now. You know, he kind of reminds me a little bit with his speed on the base paths, just being a menace. Gives me a little bit of a Whit Merrifield type of vibe. Anytime Merrifield was got on base, dude was lethal. I think he had like a record amount of like steals in one season.
I like that.
Again, for all the reasons, he puts the ball in play. He is like showing like significant effort out there. Volpe's numbers look like they're going in the wrong direction right now, or at least an inconsistent direction. I mean, Brand, you were talking earlier about, you know, when he was on base. That was the most surprising statement that you made for me tonight, man, because I don't remember seeing him on base. Now, granted, I don't remember what I did yesterday, but still, it's, you know, it's become a menace to watch. And I'll agree with Scoop that, you know, when it comes to somebody like Wells, you know, you can stomach him not being good with the bat as long as he is good with his catching. I mean, across the league, you got a bunch of catchers that are hitting ninth.
Exactly. I mean,
it's almost typical.
We think back to Russell Martin. I mean, very similar.
Yeah, that I can live with. But, geez, I mean, it was like
Did we all just get the Bellinger home run alert?
That's why I was celebrating.
Oh yeah, I just got it.
Yeah, he smoked it.
Yeah, it's just like, geez, man, like, what is he doing? I mean, the time to have sent him down was probably early summer at but we didn't have anybody to replace him in that.
No, that's the issue. Is like it's so weird to me because it's felt like for a while we've talked about how much middle infield prospect depth we have, but it just feels like, well, first of all, Volpe coming up after 22 games in AAA probably did not help this man.
No.
And it's not like he was hitting the cover off the ball like Spencer Jones was at AAA. This guy was hitting, I think it was 236 at AAA in 22 games. And his defensive numbers, they may have been impressive to some people, but it's, again, 22 games. It's if I'm going to call you up from AAA after 22 games when I kept you down for over 100 at AA, then it better be under some very unique circumstances. So I don't think that helped. Again, I still think this guy should have been a second baseman because he does not have the arm strength for shortstop, which causes how many times have we seen it over and over again? That's a big part of the issue on defense because he knows he doesn't have the arm strength. So now he's trying to figuring out, like, he's trying to whip himself around physically off of his leg. And how many times have we seen him play patty cake with himself, like 4 different times, to make sure he has the ball in his hand, because he's too much in his head. And he either throws the ball into the Hudson, or he is or he's holding on for too long that somebody in on my mobility scooter could have beaten him to first, and it's a problem for him either way. And again, like it's tough because, like I said, like I was saying before, he sticks out like a sore thumb because a lot of these other players, we've had Goldschmidt struggle a little bit. We've had Wells struggle for a little bit offensively. We've had there was times where McMahon was up and down, but nobody has, like, you're talking about historic levels of bad over a multi-week stretch with Anthony Volpe.
He's had the worst multi-week stretch since one player in 1905.
Yeah, that's what I was just referencing. I can't for the life of me remember the player's name.
Neither can I.
Yeah. I don't think you were born yet, Jay. But yeah. So, any final thoughts on that, or do we want to pivot to a couple of the next things we wanted to talk about?
I'll just say that we load up on so many shortstops anytime there's a draft, and we don't develop them properly. This is where I'm thinking, based on what we know now from Clint Frazier and Didi Gregorius talking about it, I
take Frazier with a grain of salt, but go on.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Didi Gregorius, but I'm wondering if more time in the minors would have even helped him. And we touted this guy, and listen, the highlights were good.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good highlights. He had the series, what I thought was going to be the series turnaround homer in the World Series.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and my thing is, you guys know that I always do the pick for MVP had the other team won the series, and I like to do that a lot of the time. For me, that would have, if it weren't Stanton, it would have been Volpe for that moment, and then I thought he would have continued a consistent trajectory there. We had the option of possibly signing Corey Seager, and what happens? We pass on Corey Seager. He goes to Texas, wins the World Series, and we said, "All right, now here we go. It's on you and Peraza, and neither one of them. Peraza's in Anaheim now, and Volpe is."
I also think,
regressing.
I also think that is part of the problem, though, because whenever we call up a prospect or whatever, and we can all agree on the fact that places like MLB Pipeline and such sometimes tend to be a little bit overzealous when it comes to certain prospects, including on the Yankees. That being said, I will also say that it doesn't help these guys. I've talked about this ad nauseum in the past. Not like you said, we didn't sign Seager. When with Florial, it was that we didn't sign Harper, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't help these guys when they are very aware of the guy that we signed. They're the guy that we didn't sign, and now they're thinking, "Oh, I got to come up and be that guy." That's why I give credit to guys like Didi Gregorius, who basically, again, no one should have expected him to beat Jeter, but realistically, he did about as dang well as a shortstop could have done as a successor to Jeter. And I give him a lot of credit for that because, I see these prospects, whether it's the comps that they have, and I'm going to throw something else in there besides the stats from AAA. His archetype as a prospect has completely changed. Mm-hmm. He used to be a bat-first infielder at second base. He is now, and I wonder, because we've heard about this in the past, is this a guy who, because he's trying to play shortstop, is it affecting his ability to master his number one tool, which is the bat? Because we've seen a lot of players who, when they move off of center or they move off of shortstop or they move off of catcher, their bat plays up. That's why I don't want Ben Rice to spend too much time catching, because his bat plays up at first base and his bat is his number one tool.
Yeah.
I said it a million times, but I can't help but believe that if Volpe were playing second for us regularly and not shortstop, we wouldn't be seeing this. He would be the 2020 hitter that we thought he would be 20 homers, 20 steals. He'd be hitting at least above Mendoza, and he'd be giving me good enough defense at second base. I can't help believe that if you move this guy to second base, it might be too late now, but I can't help but believe, but if you move this guy to second base and take some of the strain off of the parts of his game that are not his archetype, and this goes back to what we've all said this a million times. This team plays way too many guys out of position.
Yeah.
I'm 100% down for having guys who can play multiple positions in a pinch, or having guys who you can move around. I do that on my fantasy teams all the time. I like having guys with positional eligibility, at multiple different spots. But play your guys as much as you can at their number one position. How many guys do we have right now that are not playing the number one position? We Judge, a year ago when we got the hell's the guy's name that went to the Mets? Soto. When we got Soto, he was playing center field. I don't care how much I love him. He clearly was not the same player in center field that he was in right. It's we did it with Volpe's an obvious one.
Well, right now it's Dominguez. You're playing him in left instead of center.
Dominguez, thank you. I knew I was forgetting somebody. It's a little different with veterans like Bellinger or whatever who are good at multiple positions, and like have proven that. But if a guy, especially a young guy, demonstrates that he is best at one position, that's where he should play.
Yeah.
And if you think you have too much depth there, then trade somebody.
Yeah.
And fill one of the other positions
and it's historic too, because it's not only just for position players; it was pitchers too. Jabba.
Yeah.
Jabba. I mean, y'all know the hot take that I had is that I would be very curious to see what happened when he came over, if A-Rod stayed our shortstop and Jeter moved to second.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, Jay. If you had any final thoughts, I didn't mean to kind of cut you off.
No, and I was actually glad that it kind of supplemented a little bit with the hype of MLB pipeline, because I was also going to make the point that part of why Volpe was rushed up so much as he was, I think it was a gimmicky thing. Like, he was overhyped. Yeah, he was overhyped for shortstop. He was the highlights we saw were the ones where he was tearing the cover off the ball. We thought, all right, we can muddle this through. Sucks to see Seager win a World Series.
People will see the best play of the year by a player and expect that every night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not totally his fault, but it's also the fact that Huh?
I said I think a lot of it is not his fault.
Yeah, but it's like part of being a good baseball player is the ability to adapt. I'm wondering where his head is at when it comes to adapting. All right, not great here, but this is the hand we've been dealt, and you got to kind of grind it out a little bit. It's kind of like what IKF did until we saw the limitations there.
The fact that IKF at the end of his time in New York was better than Volpe is crazy.
Yeah. And you want to talk again about a person who was played out of position. IKF.
Oh, because he was a
Glaber even.
I think he was a third baseman first.
Yeah, it's and then we tried the experiment with Glaber at short.
Even in the last year and a half, we've had Jazz primarily at third. We just figured out, hey, put him back in his natural position and look what happens.
Yeah, and Duhar.
Oh yeah, they went from third to left. Why?
Yeah. I don't even know if he was good at third though.
He wasn't. So Duhar was a little bit different for me because he was another guy who I didn't like his glove at all. So putting him I agreed with moving him off of third. I don't think that he's quite as much of a fit in that space in terms of that conversation. But
I was saying I was okay with him going into left.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I get you. Yeah, and I agree. Remember what happened in Fenway in 2018? That throw to Greg Bird. It was awful. Ever since then, I've been like, I was scared to even see him ever throw a ball at third base. I mean,
I'm going to get through some comments real quick. Mr. Ronquillo says, he was saying hi to Graham, who was also in the comments. Hello, Fayez. I think that's fellas. Roy Osborne says, hey there, Scoops. I'm ready for Broncos football. Overall, some good rosters out there. How you doing, Mr. Osborne? Looking forward to it as well. And congrats on I'm sorry, Mr. Heron was the Brewers fan. My bad. Josh with the Elon Musk child's last name says could have traded Volpe for Castillo when we were desperate for a starting pitcher pre-Cole. The only issue that I'll say with that is that was like 5 years before his debut, so we kind of
didn't know.
Yeah, the perception of these prospects changes a lot year to year, especially over 4 to 5 years. So I do think that's a little bit tough. I think hindsight's 20/20 in that one. And then he says, Jazz ain't that great at second base, if you ask me. LOL. I don't agree with that. I will say at times I think that he, I don't know. I think he tries to be a little too cool for school at times.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly care for that. I think his actual game itself, I think he's a very talented player. And that goes for hitting, running, and defense. But I think sometimes, again, I think he likes Jazz a little too much at times.
He looks more. The thing is, he looks more comfortable even at the plate being at second. And yeah, it's like I thought he smashed a homer just now.
Who smashed a homer?
I thought he did because he hit a rocket foul.
Yeah, Jazz.
Yeah, but
okay.
but the thing is, like, he just looks more comfortable at the plate. I mean, still missing here and there, but looks more comfortable at the plate, being at his natural position. That's because when you're in the field and you're at a new position, it does mess with your head, like we're saying, like maybe with Volpe.
And I can't imagine that could have been good. That was all that good for team chemistry for a player basically to say, I'm not moving off my position, which is forcing another player to go play a position he's never played before the first day that he gets there. I can't imagine that was good in the locker room.
Yeah, that's why so many people keep talking about, like, the Gleyber Torres, saying, like, oh, look how good he's been, this year now that he's not a Yankee. I'm like, well, but the problem is it was never going to work in New York because he's never going to
work in New York. And also, due respect to how well they're playing this year, but let's be honest, the expectations preseason in Detroit were not what they were in New York.
No, yeah.
And the media attention on Gleyber I think Detroit might be the third most visible team right now. I mean, the Tigers might be the third most visible team right now in Detroit. So,
the thing is, they did have some hype coming off of last year because of all the good young guys that were there. So there was.
Yeah, but he wasn't looked at as as a epicenter to a World Series team is what I mean.
And there you go. He did it, a home run.
All that.
Yeah.
Cheers, Jasm.
Bro, after the show wraps up, you gotta tell me what the lotto numbers are for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, but the thing is, you can see that, like, just his bat path, his swing now looks a lot like there's no hitch in it. He's not uppercutting the ball as much. Now everything is level. Everything is more of a violent swing.
That's what I wish people would say. When people say get on top of the ball, I wish people would phrase it as swing level. I wish people would say that because I think that would be that would get a lot less pushback from people like me who think that hitting on top of the ball, I'm very much a Josh Donaldson type of feel where I don't understand the point. Yeah, exactly. Where I agree with Josh Donaldson where I don't see the point in that unless you're a D. Strange Gordon type of player. But anyway. We'll move on now to some of the other stuff we wanted to discuss. I asked y'all this before this, earlier this week when we were putting together some of the ideas for what to talk about today. I thought a fun thing, we did our Mount Rushmores last week, and I thought I'd ask y'all today, if you had to pick one figure who is like your number one like favorite person from sports that you've gotten to see. It could be a coach, it could be a player, it could be anybody, even a mascot for all I care. Who would your number one guy be that just kind of defined the best of being a sports fan for you? Brandon, I'll go to you first.
Well, we're saying our the one fair player that we got to see, I guess.
Well, I didn't say player, I said sports figure, so it didn't have to be a player per se.
Yeah, well, for me, it's never gonna be like an owner or something like that because it's like or a GM. Okay. But I definitely think I like just what turned me into a sports fan at a young age, around the age of probably about 5, 6, was I grew up, and especially because everybody in this area is mostly a Knicks fan. Just that's how it is. Like even in an area that even living in Jersey where it was the New Jersey Nets.
Yeah.
But for me growing up, like a lot of people love Jason Kidd that were Nets fans, and so did I. But my favorite player ever, and it's also just what got me into sports as a whole, was Vince Carter. Vince Carter to me was I mean, it's like, when you're growing up as a kid and you're getting into sports for the first time and you're seeing a guy in his prime fly across your screen, alley-oops, or not even just on alley-oops, but just really, he would do like 360 spinning layups before those were even a thing. Before, like the last time you would another player that did that before him was Jordan, maybe once or twice. Carter would do it pretty often. But he was flashy, but he was also not a trash talk guy. So it was, he was, to me, he was my hero growing up. And also, just everybody talks about his Raptors career, but he was the best version of himself as a player with the Nets. That's why he's in his jerseys in the rafters at the Barclays Center as a Net. It is too with Toronto, but when you look at this body of work as a whole, he was a much better Net as a full, complete player than he was in Toronto. So to me, I mean, that's why I have his swing. I have a swingman jersey. I have a Vince Carter, blue New Jersey Nets jersey in my closet. He was my favorite player growing up. But then the thing is, I'll give you an honorable mention because there's always going to be an honorable mention.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't him, now I could say Dawkins or Westbrook, but the one Eagle that I was already a fan before he even got there, but then watching him play growing up as a preteen, it like I was just amazed by the things he did on a football field was LaShawn McCoy. There was no better running back for that 5-6 year period than he was in the NFL. I mean, that maybe besides Adrian Peterson, but that's but LaShawn McCoy. I mean, he's part of the 2010s All Decade team for a reason. That's how good he was in his prime, especially on a team where the Eagles at that time they didn't have they had the beginnings of a top 3 to 5 offensive line in football, but it wasn't quite there yet. He was still rushing behind guys
they didn't even get Johnson until I think
so almost when he left, like the year before or something like
that. They got Johnson his final year. They certainly didn't have Mailata yet. They had Kelsey, but
Kelsey was still raw too.
Yeah, Kelsey was still raw, and I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to think of. I can't even remember who their guards were. I think that was before Brandon Brooks got there.
Yeah, I think it was too. Or it was like he played it. I think he started to play with the Eagles last year that McCoy was there.
Was that when Isaac Somalo was there?
I think so. Yeah, his time too. But it was watching him like I already was already a diehard for the Eagles, and I have been since I was 7 years old. But LaShawn McCoy did things on a football field that I'd never seen before for any of my sports teams in general. I was never amazed by a player on any of my sports teams like I was watching him run in his prime. The best snow rusher the NFL's ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the shiftiest guys the NFL has ever seen. That's literally why his Twitter handle is cut on a dime 25 or whatever it is.
I forgot about that.
So I've never seen a change of direction like his, either before or since. People. It's not just me being an Eagles homer. It's just the truth. If you put on a highlight table of Sean McCoy, especially in Philadelphia, I mean in Buffalo too, but especially in Philadelphia, there was no one doing the things that he did in the league at that time.
Right.
I mean, at one point he won a rushing title. Philly hasn't seen a rushing title. Saquon Barkley last year, but
prior to that,
the rushing title type guy in that's what LaShawn McCoy was like the first since I don't know if it maybe ever. I think in Philly,
I'd have to double check. I don't remember
to win a rushing title. So, I remember when he came out with the World Heavyweight Championship belt when he officially won the title. He had it on his shoulder. Like he was larger than life to me. And so it's like those two guys. Like if I had to pick two, those are the two. Number one is still Vince Carter, but number two, right behind him, like a 1B, is LaShawn McCoy.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've told you LaShawn McCoy is my favorite Eagle ever. I'm not gonna lie. The 1-2 punch that we have now of Saquon and Hurts is rapidly, pushing up. But for now, he's still that favorite of all time for me, and I definitely was. the frustrating thing is I was deluded the day that we traded him to Buffalo for Kiko Alonso.
Yeah.
I somehow convinced myself, oh, he's younger, he's a position of need. I'm serious. I convinced myself, I was like, okay, maybe this could work out well. And he was in Buffalo, so like, I'm coming from Western New York. I was like, oh, okay, at least I'll get to still see him play, blah 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 blah. That ended up being one of the worst trades one of my favorite teams has ever made. Jay, go ahead. Your favorite sports figure of all time.
All right. So, were we like going into it saying like from when we started watching as kids or whatever, or can it be kind of like retroactive? Like you kind of are looking back on
my idea was my idea was since you started watching as a kid, but if you've got somebody else who means a lot to you that you want to, please.
So it was a really tough decision. I thought it was going to be an easier decision when you first asked it. I crossed off a couple of sports, football and hockey and basketball. It was always going to be a baseball player. Maybe Pettit was my favorite. It still is my favorite Yankee all time, but it wasn't him. It's going to surprise you that it wasn't him. And it came down to like three people. I'll give you the two honorable.
I think I know who it is, but I want to see if I'm right.
Yeah, you're probably going to be right. And it's Yankee heresy. And I didn't enjoy it while he was in his prime and while he was happening. But I have to say, overall, Pedro Martinez.
Oh, okay. I was actually wrong.
Yeah. Well, where'd you guess?
I was going to say CC Sabathia.
He was the closest. So let me explain why. So, when we watch sports, I mean, it goes way beyond just the sport for us. I mean, that's why we invest in their personality. Scoop, I depend on you a lot for, telling me like the background and, the personal news of a lot of these players, what they're going through. And then, I know you sympathize a lot with, people and their background. CC had the resilience that I think, you should have. Mm-hmm. So if the audience doesn't already know, if I haven't already said it, I'm an attorney. And it took a long time for me to pass the bar exam. I like to tell people that I took it 3 times just to make sure.
I love that.
But one of the things that would help me like chill after a bad day, like a bad score day or a bad study day, is sometimes I would watch the Game 5 of the ALDS in, I think, 1999, where Pedro came on in relief after a back injury and hitless innings and kept his team in the game until they beat Cleveland, moved on, and we whooped their asses in the ALCS. Not because of Pedro, obviously. I honestly, you watch the way he played, like the excellence and the precision that he had, combined with the confidence and the swagger. That is the sort of thing that I like to hone when I'm what I like to call playing lawyer ball. If I'm in a courtroom, I want to be like Pedro Martinez. I'm trying to, and me personally, who always likes to represent or who, aspires to represent more vulnerable people, we're representing the underdog. Pedro was like the ultimate underdog many times in his career. That Game 5 being the biggest example. And of course, he also shouted me out during the 2022 ALCS.
I could not freaking believe that when that happened.
Wow, dude, I was listening to my music after the walk-off loss in Cleveland. And I'm, this was before Game 4. I turn around, I look at my TV, and I see my tweet on the TV. And for a second, you did a double take. It's like, oh, cool. I have wait, that's not my computer. And I
had to listen like 2 or 3 times. I was like,
yeah. And I wore, for the day 1 of the bar exam, I wore Pedro's Montreal jersey. And that was my most successful.
So badly. I want a Pedro jersey, and I want it to be Montreal.
Yeah, that one was and that was my most successful take. Now, day 2, I wore Garrett Cole's jersey, and then I went to a game. But so it was. So I admire the confidence, the swagger. I did not like it when he was playing against us. Lord knows,
no, of course.
He was my deep-seated enemy. at home in the 2003 ALCS when he threw down Don Zimmer. Now I'm a little bit more amenable to him, even in retrospect, because there's no reason Don Zimmer should have been charging at him. And at least he feels better. But I loved his competitive edge. The two guys who are some of the closest runners up, and I would even say three guys. I would say, yes, CC Sabathia, resilience, determination, black ace. You know me. That's big in my book. The other one, Clayton Kershaw. He's currently still my favorite non-Yankee. A lot of similarities like Pedro. I think he essentially is a left-handed Pedro for this era. And of course, there's Matt, a distant but still honorable mention. There's Max Scherzer. Those are pitchers, all of them like absolutely psycho, but absolutely like locked in when
Nails.
do the job. Nails, man, locked in when it's time to do the job. And that when I met CC back in February too, I said, I hope I'm as good as a lawyer as you are as a pitcher. I feel the same way as Pedro. Life goal is to meet him and and talk to him and have him actually sign a picture of the tweet that he read.
Wait, say that last part again, please.
Have him sign a picture of the tweet that he read on the air.
Oh, that's awesome. I heard a picture of his feet, and I was so confused.
Oh,
yeah, no. I don't love him that much. Yeah.
I was so confused, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's so yeah, Yankee heresy, but you gotta bear witness to the great. And by the way, I this is a hill that I will die on, and the old heads will get mad at me. I used to debate a lot with the old heads in my neighborhood. He's the greatest of all time in terms of pitching. He's the GOAT.
I've told you that I agree with you on that.
Oh yeah, you told. Yeah. No, believe you me, I've had the back and forth. You will never have a back and forth like that until you've told an older guy who knew when the Dodgers were in Brooklyn that Pedro is the greatest of all time. Because you'll hear about Nolan Ryan. I'm like, yeah, Nolan Ryan gave up too many walks.
He pitched his best when Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, all of them guys were,
reduced to the gills, hitting
exactly.
70 home runs a year. Yeah.
60% nitrogen, 30% oxygen, and 10% steroids.
Yeah. And the closest guy who comes close to Pedro would be Clemens. It's just that Pedro. Huh?
I
said, speaking of steroids.
Yeah.
Well, see, Pedro did it cleanly. That's the thing. Pedro did it clean.
Pedro did it cleanly, and his peak was my point. Better than everyone's.
Yeah.
People like to come to me with Randy Johnson. I was like, well, Randy would be great and with the straight Cy Youngs, but he was also throwing to pitchers. That helps his numbers.
He was what? I couldn't hear you.
Randy Johnson, he was throwing to pitchers.
Oh, like they didn't have the DH, you mean?
Yeah, they didn't have the DH. Now that doesn't make him not a great pitcher. It's just that it doesn't make him the GOAT.
No, I got you. Yeah, no. So for mine, and this is probably the reason why I phrased it as greatest sports figure and not player is because the guy that I had in mind immediately is not a player, but when I look at the guy who, and again, I have all respect and appreciation for the 09 Yankees and for the sort of sporadic memories I do have of them. This guy is behind the two championships that I've gotten to see in professional sports. He put those things together. He had me literally calling for him to get fired 2 years after the first Super Bowl, and then reconstructed a completely different roster to bring back to another Super Bowl and then win another one 2 years later. I got to give it for my guy, Howie Roseman.
Yes, sir.
And I'm so grateful for what he's done. Another thing that I want to mention about him too, that I think is significantly lesser known, is that his background. Well, first of all, he was hired by the Eagles in 2000, but he had gone to. Excuse me, I want to pull this up and get this 100% right. He began sending letters to every NFL team while he was still in high school, which is something I did as well. He excuse me, sorry. He got interviewed for an intern position, didn't get the job. He was hired as an intern by the Eagles, as I mentioned, in 2000. Did pursue a legal career, eventually got into it, but not on his first try. Like, there's just a lot of things that I can relate to with Howie as Roseman as well. So the fact that I can see him not as somebody that I admire and appreciate and look up to, but somebody whose path I kind of want to hopefully be on a similar one, at some point. Just with so much that he's done both legally and in sports, I just have a lot of admiration and respect for that as well, and a desire to do a lot of that myself, and hope that it works out in a similar way. So I got to throw that down. But if I'm gonna go with, I'll go with somebody else, not in professional sports, but in college sports. This is also not a player, but man, in a lot of people's opinions, and I think that they're correct, if not the greatest college football coach in history, certainly one of the top couple, Mr. Nick Saban. And I'll put it, and I'll say this, not just because of obviously he won, for the Tide, Roll Tide. He did that for a decade or longer, but his style, I really admire. Like, every time he would speak, he would say something both knowledgeable and, in my opinion, insightful. But he also was he also was enjoyable to listen to. You know what I mean? He would drop funny lines here and there, and he kind of was able to balance, but he was so detail oriented. I remember reading something at one point that he basically said he would eat the same thing every day at the same times every day, because he was that regimented about routine, and because he had this mentality that the fewer variables you have to think about on a day-to-day basis, the more brain capacity you have to do what you actually have to do. And I've actually started to try and adopt some of that here while I've lived down here in Mississippi. And so, those two guys, I think, have really been instrumental to my career, being a baseball fan and sports fan, but also stuff that I've tried to bring into my own life as well, and try to emulate the best that I can. So those are my two picks for that as well. If I did have to pick a player, easily Mariano Rivera. But
I even came up with a third in my head that it's not even a player that's on any of our favorite teams, because I loved watching him growing up, and because Jay sparked my memory because of mentioning pitchers. My favorite pitcher to watch growing up, and I hated it when he was obviously against us multiple times in the playoffs, because he killed us, but he killed everybody. And that was Justin Verlander.
For some reason, that's where I had the feeling you were going with that.
Justin Verlander, I wanted him to be a Yankee since his Tigers days. I always wished that he was, even though that was never going to happen. But the way you want to talk about absolute, like, I love pitchers who are gamers. So like a CC, like a Pettit, like a Pedro, even if they go against the Yankees, it's guys I can appreciate. It's guys that are just cut from a different cloth, and
right.
Are now from a different era. There's not many guys like that in the league, I think, anymore. But Verlander, and the fact that he's still pitching even now, guys like him and Scherzer are still pitching now. But Verlander was a guy where I was like, especially on some, I mean, he had a couple good Detroit teams, but they were not that good.
It was largely their pitchers that were were leading
carrying them.
They had Miggy, obviously, but it was Verlander, it was Scherzer. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think David Price was there for a little bit. And then they had Valverde on the back end. Rest in peace, Octavio Dotel, in my opinion, one of the more underrated relievers in history. I completely agree with you on that. To think back to the fact that I was like not wanting Verlander in that waiver trade because I didn't want to pay a pitcher of that age, or didn't want the Yankees to pay a pitcher of that age $25 million per year over the next couple years, and then he goes on to be perhaps the only pitcher of his age that would have been exactly worth that and more.
Because it's like everywhere he's gone, he's had success. Well, I mean, not at this point in his career, but whether that's the Tigers or especially with the Astros, it's even crazier that he was already going to be on a fast track to the Hall of Fame with his Tigers career. But to go to Houston and get better, especially as he was older by that point.
You can argue both him and Scherzer. You can argue, even as good as they were as Tigers, that they were their best with the Nationals and the Astros, respectively.
Yep. And those are guys. It's like those are guys I missed. Like that's why I love a guy like Garrett Cole so much. That's why the Yankees miss Garrett Cole so much. That's the kind of guy he's cut from that same kind of cloth.
I'm going to jump down to some comments here. Mr. Burns says LaShawn McCoy was an incredible running back for multiple teams. Yeah, for Eagles, Buffalo. I know he played for the Chiefs, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Years, but not long.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I thought I forgot somebody else. Josh something says Greg Maddox was must watch. Kenny says, "What's up, fellas? Just tuning in. What's the topic?" So I basically was asking the guys, they're like, if they had to pick a number one. Obviously none of us kept it to one, but we had to keep I've said us. I did the same shit, same thing. I had to basically asked if you had to pick a number one sports figure from your time as a sports fan to kind of that you like the most or that you appreciate the most or whatever. Who would it be? So Brandon threw out a couple guys like Vince Carter, and then the second one that you said, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the second one you said.
It was LaShawn McCoy.
It was Shady McCoy. Okay, right. And then we got Pedro Martinez, both of whom Jay and I say consider the GOAT when it comes to MLB pitching. So and then the names that I dropped were neither was a player, but it was Howie Roseman and Coach Nick Saban. So perfect time for Kenny to be here because we had one more Yankees topic we wanted to address real quickly. And this was one that I think was one of those things that is kind of shocking but not surprising at the same time. Like when you read it, it's like, oh my goodness. But when you actually start to internalize it for a second, it's like, okay, that's not surprising considering, where everything is at right now. It was a report from the Yankees, or not from the Yankees, but about the Yankees, basically saying that an early exit or missing the postseason entirely has a very good chance of costing both Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman their jobs in New York. And that report, I think, would have gotten a lot of people, I think, would have overlooked that or did overlook that, except it came from former Fox Sports reporter Ken Rosenthal, who up until, I think Jeff Passan kind of took it over the last few years, but for most of my time as a baseball fan, he was considered the gold standard of baseball reporting. So pretty much anything he says still, I take at face value. So I do. So I believe him. I think that, it's going to probably, and I believe that I agree that it should take, a significant improvement and a significant run in October to have these guys both back next year. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much I respect Boone, no matter how much I respect Cashman, I'm a Yankees fan. I want to win. If you think you can win better with a new manager and or a new president of baseball operations, go for it. Jay, you good there, boss?
Nope. Will Warren just gave all 4 runs back.
All right, my mic's still active, so I can't react.
It's only the second inning?
Because Will Warren can't find the plate, and because he's terrible. So,
oh my God,
I've lost any hope in Will Warren at this point. It's the White Sox, bro. Come on, get real.
Scoop, man. We've had our back and forths on Will Warren, but I wanted to say that I'm sticking by him.
What I've said
making it difficult.
What I've said is I can't give up on a pitcher who wasn't even supposed to be in our rotation to start this season. That's what I've said. I'm not going to suddenly say, oh, he's pitching great. Like, obviously he's not. The facts are right in front of you. But I will also say that a lot of the pitchers that we talk about who had very good and very long careers, go back and look at their ERAs their first 2 seasons. They were in the 4s. They were in the 5s. And again, it's the.
I'm gonna Joel Embiid and trust the process. I mean,
Joel Embiid. Okay, not a character, not a guy of whom I'm a huge fan, but I respect it.
I'm not a huge fan of Will Warren right now either. But yeah,
I always thought he was a bullpen guy. I never thought he was a starter.
Whatever they decide to do with him, bullpen or starter, I just hope that they find one this offseason, finally in this offseason, and then stick to it. Don't be doing what you were doing with a bunch of other pitchers like we talked about a couple episodes ago and jumping them back and forth between the bullpen, swingman, rotation, AAA, major leagues. Like don't be playing hopscotch with these kids.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'll go the same order I've been going. Brandon. Basically, your thoughts on this report. Do you agree that, it should take a deep run into the playoffs to bring both these guys back? And if you think both of them are going to go, or either of them are going to go, who are somebody that you would maybe look at if you have a name in mind?
I think, I'm on the same lines as you, is that if they feel they can win elsewhere and these guys don't get into a deep enough playoff run, then yeah, if you feel like you can move on from it, then do it. I mean, it's just for it being almost the second longest championship drought in Yankees history, especially with how much of the talent this team has had in the last 15 years, it's unacceptable. And that's not just with Boone, that's with Andy Girardi's tenure too.
Right.
But it's just, I think that, we've said it all year that the problems with the Yankees are just it's a systemic issue. It's not just them; it's really the entire front office, and then even at the lower levels, just who they have in place at certain spots in terms of player development and things like that. But it's just, I feel like, at this point, if you're not going to make I would say, if you don't at least make it to the ALCS, I'm not even saying just win it. Like, you should, with this talent and with how this team can explode when they need to, you should make the ALCS at the bare minimum, especially with how kind of weak the AL is in general. But I just don't know. I don't know if they are. You play just better teams like anybody. Like all they have their next 2 or 3 weeks are against every team that's in front of them in the AL. If you can't go out there and beat those teams, I have no reason to believe they're going to win anything come postseason time. So it's just, I feel like that's going to really decide the season one way or another. Because either you lose all those games, all of a sudden you might find yourself out of a postseason spot, or you win at least half of those games, if not more, and then you're still hanging on to the wild card spot and you make it in. So hey, you could surprise the Blue Jays and let's say, I don't want to say, hey, maybe you take 2 out of 3 and then you can maybe look at chasing them down at the very end of the season. But, all those things are in play still, even though it's late, they're all still in play. But when I look at just the Boone and Cashman thing, I'm like, how much more can you take to? Because Cashman, I like some of the movies he's made. I haven't agreed with everything he's done. But
no, of course not.
But at some point, I don't know who it would be, but at some point, like it is, as it stands with them being in a very long drought, something has to change. The philosophy itself is not going to change if those two are still there. So it's if the Yankees, so if Ken Rosenthal is saying that those conversations are being had, then the Yankees themselves, I guess, as a team, they have to believe that there is something, there's greener pastures out there. I don't know who it would be. We've talked about it. Well, Scoop, you have talking about, David Ross being the guy if you're going to replace
for manager, yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know what just happened there.
Well, I don't have the game on. Can you give me a little bit of context?
Stanton shattered his bat on a looping. I think they were trying to do a hit and run. Yep, that's what they were trying. Or either that, or Cody was probably trying to steal second. So they got doubled up.
Because now the pressure's on us.
Yeah,
you have to be there
because Will Warren gave the game back.
That's my baseball. That's my easy game win. You can have it.
the second I saw Will Warren starting this game, I said I don't care. It's the White Sox. They're gonna make this a fight for all 9 innings because it's Will Warren. But I think with those two guys in place, with not having won in so long, with kind of doing things the same way you've been doing them every year, it's just that it's going to come to a point where it has to change. Not necessarily if there's anything else that's better at the tip of our tongue right now, but it's going to have something's going to just have to be different. So I feel like I believe that report. Like I was telling you in the chat, if it comes from Ken Rosenthal, it's real.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because we'll see a lot of things that says like, insider says this or insider says, and it's often guys, not to disrespect them, but it's often guys who, you think, oh, take it with a grain of salt, like the Bob Nightingales of the world, the John Heymans of the world, like people who, I think sometimes are looked at as people who have put a lot of stuff out there in the past and maybe some of it hasn't come to fruition. But I can think there's 3 people that I can think of in baseball reporting who put something out and it almost 100% of the time eventually comes to fruition. And that's Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Passan, and Jack Curry. And I would probably throw Joel Sherman in there as well. But just looking at those, so when I saw that, I was like, okay, there's got to be some sort of smoke here. And what that says to me is that Hal has basically given a directive to Boone and Cashman, or somebody up in the higher levels has given a directive to Boone and Cashman, basically saying this is unacceptable, especially 1 year after going to the World Series, but also 2 years after you only won 82 games.
Yeah.
Figure it out, and you've got the rest of the season to do it, or, I extended y'all. I can unextend y'all very quickly. Unextend. I don't think that's even a word, but yeah. So my vantage point, I would say I'm kind of going a little bit reverse order here, but just real because I'm going to make this quick. My guess is that, like I said, if they move off of Boone, which I would keep, if I'm keeping one, I'm keeping Boone over Cashman, because I quite frankly think that Boone. I don't think moving Boone out is going to do much of anything because the problems seem to be a lot more based in minor leagues. They seem to be a lot more based in player development. Even though our player development has yielded some positive results recently, there seems to be that seems to be a form of the issues. Some of the roster. I don't think roster construction is the most accurate way to put it, but I'll use that phrase just because it's, again, like we talked about earlier, playing out of position, one thing or another. I don't agree with the assessment that he just does what Cashman tells him to do. I don't think that's a fair way to assess it. But obviously, like every manager, he works with what he's given from on high. And I just think the mistakes that players are making in AA and high A and single A, Boone has nothing to do with it. He doesn't even know those guys' names yet. So if I'm making a move out, it's, in my opinion, it's Cashman over Boone. Now, if I move out Cashman, the names that come to mind immediately, if you want to go internal, which I think is a big risk, if you want to go internal, the first name that I'm thinking of is Brian Sabian, because he has helped oversee the greatness of the teams in the 90s. He helped develop them. He was essential behind drafting multiple of the core 4, but also he has been able to win in more recent times, being the GM of the 3 out of 5 years that the Giants won the World Series, about 10 years ago. So I do think that there's some of that. If, however, they want to go with somebody, which I wouldn't blame them if they did, if they want to go with somebody who maybe they consider a little bit, not just younger necessarily, but with more experience at a higher level in recent years, I think Kim Eng definitely is somebody that they should call. I think that if they somehow have the ability to do it, I don't think they could get him because I know he's a part owner now in Boston. I would make a call to Theo Epstein. And the last name I can think of like former or current GMs that I'd make a call to. I know he has a current job, so there's some issues there, but I'd make a call to Philly about seeing if I can get David Dombrowski. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys in terms of like actual like experienced GMs that I would go to, because just again, You went with experience. You went with inexperience for your manager. I can't see a team that's got such high expectations right now and has so much committed to the next couple of years right now. I just can't see you putting a rookie GM in that position. I just can't. Jay.
Yeah. So first, I'm skeptical about the report. I think Ken Rosenthal is mostly credible, although he's had some like I want to say issues in a negative way, but there were issues. Like there was what happened during the NLDS with the Padres and his reporting on it. So I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I also feel like we would have heard maybe a little bit more about it because it's the New York Yankees.
I will push back on that real quick and just say, would you really? Because again, this is a team that's pushing for a postseason spot. That maybe they deliberately didn't put much out there because again, usually if something
I take it back.
I feel like that would be a disaster for a team that's trying to get right.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you who I would replace Brian Cashman with. I know who I would want to replace Boone with, and obviously it's the one that fans always will be putting out there, and it's and that'd be Jorge Posada, because Jorge was like the guy to me. I think I used to hear a lot about while Jeter was the nice guy, he was the enforcer in the dugout in the clubhouse.
That's interesting because it's a little different than what I've heard. But go on.
Yeah, so but he was the jerk, is what I used to hear.
Yeah, that's fair. I've heard that Jeter was less than the nicest guy in the world. But go on.
Oh, okay. I also think, as like Scoop that you were saying, I also think that Boone getting fired would kind of be a scapegoating move. I mean, it's not Boone's fault that they couldn't make the plays. It's not Boone's fault that Will Warren just gave up a grand slam. It's not. You fire Boone and Cashman. Like I said, a lot of it are the internals. I think Cashman would probably deserve more of the firing than Aaron Boone was.
Yeah.
Here's why the report sort of doesn't make sense to me. Cashman just bought himself a lot more goodwill during the trade deadline than not. Now, has everybody worked out? No. Camilo Doval is horrible. We had to send Jake Bird downstairs, but you really couldn't have seen that one coming. And you really couldn't logically kind of lay that at Brian Cashman's doorstep in his defense. Now, again, you have to rip up a lot of what is going on internally, especially down in the minor leagues. I would rather have somebody with a little bit more urgency than Brian Cashman, but then again, the last 2 seasons he's shown that kind of urgency. He went out and got Juan Soto last year. This year he was aggressive at the trade deadline. Got us David Bednar. Got us Jose Caballero. He was still better than who we thought we thought he was going to be at the trade deadline. Like if you took us back in like at the end of May, early June, did we really think he was going to be as aggressive as he was? No. Do I wish he were more aggressive in the past before, I'm talking pre-Juan Soto? Yes. One of his trademark things when it comes to other trade deadlines and other off seasons is that Cashman loved to kick tires. And then
Cashman what?
Loved to kick tires.
Oh, okay.
Like he would, but while the stars went elsewhere. So right about now, I don't know that it makes a tremendous amount of sense because even if we get the usual blue ball as we go to the ALCS,
yeah,
and then you're not go to the World Series or go to the World Series and don't win it. It's not that. First of all, going to the ALCS for me right now would exceed expectations.
Yeah.
I'm still expecting a first round exit. I'm sorry, guys, but that's a level of faith I have in this team until I see what happens in the run coming up.
Yeah, like Boston, Toronto.
Right. So I'm still sort of expecting. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm expecting the worst. And if I'm feeling that way, I think Hal feels that way. I don't know if Hal is so. I want to know where Hal's head is at this point, and that's not something you hear anything about. So
yeah, I think that's probably by design.
In one sense, because of that, I would say, yeah, it might. Rosenthal's report might be accurate because I think Hal thinks that all you have to do is toss these two guys, and from a business standpoint, people will be happy, and we'll stay at the ballpark. On another sense, remember, Hal is the guy who had to step in and sign Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm.
He had to act as his own GM in that. For me, that was the point where you could fire somebody. Because my thing is, well, if I have to step in and sign our franchise player, what do I need you for? I mean, don't be Jerry Jones and act as the team's GM. But if I had to, do that, then, again, but there's been improvement since then. So for me, I don't know, man. Of the two, if you had to make me choose who you would get rid of, it would probably be Brian Cashman. I don't think Boone deserves it.
No.
But right now, from a logical speaking standpoint, I mean, I don't want to make this decision on recency bias, but Cashman's been a little bit more aggressive. It's just that he's been in the organization too long.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's been GM since '98. So he's been there 27 years, and he's been in the organization since I want to say 1986.
Yes,
so,
right.
Yeah. So,
and the only ring he can actually claim credit for is 2009.
Right, because maybe 2000, because I know that was his third year. So typically you're starting to make your mark on that team by then. Because again, yes, we already had the core four or the Fab Five if you want to include Bernie Williams. You still had to put 20 other players on that roster. So, and a good number of players year to year will just change. That's just how baseball works and how rosters work. So I think there's an argument to say that at the end of that also was some of him, but I completely agree in terms of, obviously not 96, not 98, and, potentially not 99 as well. But yeah, like you said, I mean, even in that sense, 2 rings in 25 years. We just saw Mike Rizzo get fired in Washington, who was well into a rebuild that a lot of people, including myself, thought was going well after winning a World Series 5-6 years ago. So, yeah, the one thing that I wonder and I kind of speculate on is, do they kind of do what some teams have done, promote Cashman in a sense to like a president position or something, and then bring in a new general manager under him, who presumably Cashman would still have a decent amount of power in the organization, but somebody else who's really taking over the reins in terms of actual GMing responsibilities. That is something I do wonder, because I have seen several teams do that. I mean, I think that, in fact, I think that's actually what Philly did with Dave Dombrowski that I mentioned before, because I know they brought in Sam Fold last year and then they fired him, and I think Preston Mattingly is there now. So I do think that there's some precedent for maybe that being a move that could make sense. But yeah, I agree. Would keep Boone if I had to keep one of the two. If I had to guess about what will actually happen, I would probably say I think they have to get at least deep into the ALCS if this report is accurate. I don't think that just going to the ALDS will save them. I certainly don't think just going to the wild card series is going to save them, now that that's a thing. It's just because, again, it's like we said, these two have worked together. If just one had been here for a couple of years and the other one longer, that's one thing. These guys have worked together now for 7 seasons, 8 seasons, something like that. And obviously we mentioned, Cashman has been there since literally the mid 80s. So it's that I think is what makes it tougher. Is not so much that I don't like what he's done recently, and I will say about I will disagree with you on the thing about Aaron Judge, because like I've said before, I think almost every owner gets the final say or makes the final call when it comes to spending that much money on a player. I think that there's a chance that some people may have misappropriated the whole Cashman had to step in type of thing, because he made a call. To my knowledge, I have no indication that Cashman said, "Here, you make the call." I have no indication that any of that. For all we know, maybe Judge wanted to talk to Hal personally before he made anything. Like, I think that too much is being made of, oh, Hal had to do it, not Brian. Like, I think too much is being made of that specifically. And then Kenny, sorry, I'm going to get back to some comments real quick because we're definitely well into the second hour. Kenny says, I think, in my opinion, you have to move on from Boone and Cashman. Time to go in a new direction. Scoop, who I want as manager of the Yankees, Mark DeRosa. It's not 100% Boone's fault. I've been actually watching some Mark DeRosa breakdowns on MLB Network. He actually did a really interesting one of Ben Rice's mechanics the last day or so that I highly recommend watching. Excuse me. I agree it's not 100% Boone's fault, but I've come around on the Mark DeRosa idea a little bit since you discussed it. Too many one-dimensional players. I'll agree and disagree with that. I think that it's been an issue of not just the players being one-dimensional, but how we've used certain players. Like, I'll give another example that we didn't even talk about. Giancarlo Stanton has clearly been some of his best ball offensively while he's been here has been when he's played the field. I know that the guy can't run now, but at least in the earlier part of his career, I think making him a pure DH when he was better while playing the field in a lot of cases, and while he evidently could still play the field, at least to a serviceable level in left field. I think that it's more about, I think it's all in a lot of cases more about how we've used these players and how we've developed them. Like I've said it, I think Brandon and I both said it a couple weeks ago. Houston, LA, Atlanta, those teams, they develop players to their strengths. We develop our players to not have a weakness. And while I understand you got to be, you don't want to have a complete black hole in your game. I understand that. But you look at other teams, the Rays for a while, a team that people look, or even the Blue Jays, they, for a while, with Pilar and Kiermaier, respectively, they basically said, we're going to punt on expecting our center fielder to be a hitter because he's got such good speed and such good defense. They're trying to make Volpe a speed and defense shortstop when he came up as a bat first second baseman. That makes no sense.
Nope.
I've seen one player move from a position to a position that's considered harder to play, and that's Mookie Betts, who might, aside from Shohei Ohtani, be the best athlete in Major League Baseball. Kenny says, problem I have with Boone is it seems like he's.
I can read that if you want me to.
Seems like he's being told what to do, meaning Volpe should not be starting and strictly be a bench player one. If you want me to go past Aaron Hicks, Cashman guy played in big games in playoffs all the time. I see some of what you're arguing there. The problem I have with Cashman is passing up on. I think that's ace pitchers because of players being untouchable. And that's something I've completely agreed with. But the thing that I think about now is we've seen it with Torres, we've seen it with Volpe now. We've got precedent of this. Players will come up, play well as young rookie or second year players with the Yankees, and regress the more time they spend in the majors. So there's something with that. I now question: was it the talent, the people, the players themselves that we were drafting or signing or trading for or whatever? Or is it what we did with them once they got here? That's kind of what, with the exception of Matt Blake, because Matt Blake and what we've been able to do with pitchers, particularly in the bullpen, I think has been second to none in a lot of cases. But so that's kind of the question that I have to ask there as well. Guys, I'm sorry, we went way longer than I expected. I don't know why I expected any differently at this point. This will not be the case next week when y'all want to go and watch Thursday Night Football. I should say we all want to go watch Thursday Night Football because we know who's playing that night. It's Philly versus the Jerry Joneses. And we'll be looking forward to that for sure. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say pregame on that show. And I will mention, speaking of the Dallas, I will mention this real quick. I got this while we were talking. I didn't want to cut off anybody. Hello. But the Athletic reported while we were on the show, the Cowboys' latest offer and final offer to Micah Parsons financially was $202 million. So that's actually more than what he ultimately signed for with the Packers, or the extension that he got, which was $188 million, as far as I became aware. But what was also interesting is that apparently, independent of that, the Cowboys apparently, according to another report, told Micah Parsons, play the fifth-year option or leave.
Oof.
Apparently, that was the message from the front office or ownership or both to Micah Parsons, which would make even more sense now as to why he requested a trade if that's the case. And also lends context to Jerry Jones being so heavy-handed on the comments about the player, sorry, not the player options, the franchise tag. Getting my sports mixed up there. And to run through the final comments, Kenny says, hip, hip, Jorge. And then Mr. Burns says, Eagles going to win that game. I still can't believe he got a lot of money for that. All right. Well, thank you, guys. We had a lot of activity tonight. I think this time slot's working really well for all three of us and for the people who tune in to watch. So I want to thank everybody who was on tonight. Guys, both of y'all, we had a great show, a lot of spirited conversation, and a lot of unique takes as always. And I always love the discussions. And next time we are on, this is the last Thursday we'll be on without a football game to discuss for several months. So exciting for all of us. I know we'll all be looking forward to taking on Dallas next weekend. Next week, rather. Wake up. I'm having too many slips for somebody who just put down 42 ounces of caffeine. But that being said, I hope we all get to enjoy the next week of baseball. Hopefully, we'll be able to have some more positive conversations next week, recapping whatever the heck this team has in store for us over the next 7 days. We're going to go, I assume we're going to go all watch this game against the White Sox, but yep. I'll see you all next week. And before I cut anybody for the cut the camera, anybody, Brandon, I'll go to you first for your kind of closing statements, if you want to say.
Yeah, I like that we call it that, especially with with having Jay here. That's closing argument, statement, all that good stuff. Yeah. But yeah, next week should be fun. Are we spoiling the potential guest that we may or may not be having?
I have to clear it with him first.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm about 98% sure that we're a go. But I just want to, I do want to just get his final okay with that. So I don't want to again jump the gun on anything, especially on air. But I will say I think that we're all going to have very good football conversation next week. I will say that much.
It's going to be fun. That's especially the one thing I can't wait for next week is once again even with Micah Parsons no longer being in Dallas, it's going to be as Ben Rice continues to absolutely murder baseballs.
What did he do? And did it actually find the ground this time?
Yeah, actually, both of his hits have actually found the ground.
The fact that we're finally, I said for the longest time, and this is one of the things I'm grateful for, is that whenever we've said we think players are getting unlucky, usually we're right. So I'm glad for that.
Ben Rice was the biggest one. We all said for the longest time he was, but so now next week for football is going to be real fun. I mean, but it's a lose-lose scenario if you're an Eagles fan. If you win, okay, great, we won. We start the season 1-0 over our rivals. Super Bowl banner night, all this stuff. But here's where we lose. Either we lose the game and we get trolled by Cowboys fans. Because either way, if we win the game or lose the game, the Cowboys fans' biggest thing they'll bring up is, we didn't have Micah and we beat you, or we didn't have Micah, so that's why we lost. So I can't wait for that excuse next week.
You know what the best part is?
What?
our rings are not rusted over, so we don't care.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, guys. I'm gonna kick this over to Jay now for his.
I'm gonna be short. I'm gonna be short because, by the way, I appreciate the shout out from Brandon about being an attorney with closing arguments. By the way, I was a better opener than I was a closer, so I'm a better starter than a reliever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to a full season of being an Eagles fan. Even though I'd like to try to erase the history of being a Jet fan, but can't wait. Can't wait to be with. I'm so happy to have been accepted by my Philly fam. Every time somebody,
I told you it fit like a glove.
Yeah, and that's what encouraged me to make the full transition. Honestly,
You were Philly before you came to Philly.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people say I was born in the wrong city. I was born in the right city. I'm a New Yorker through and through, but I have a good balance now. I have a good toxicity balance in my sports fandom. So it's going to be a really great season. It's going to be a really fun season. The quest to repeat begins here. And, it's going to be a lot better for my mental health, for the Eagles to come around especially, after what's been going on with the Yankees. So listen, let's make it a good season, man. And, let's keep it tight. Let's keep the main thing. Repeat city.
Love that.
Don't give me no Jalen-isms this early. You can say that for next week.
I've got so the sticky pad things that you can put on your computer, like actually on the computer screen on your desktop screen. I actually have that as one of the, because I have a ton of quotes on there, and I actually have one of that is one of them. Mr. Heron real quick says tough loss today, but let's go Brewers. Yep, they fell 6-4 to the Diamondbacks. He says Denver Broncos for life, baby. Let's go. And then I don't know what he's talking about, but Josh B.
I think Josh is calling out Jay for switching fandoms. So
okay, I can figure out what it was.
I figured that, and I will say that I don't think that there's anybody in the country. Well, there are a few people in the country who will disagree with me. Because I like to enjoy watching football, Josh.
He says so you changed teams for mental health. Okay, I'm sorry, but I think there's about in professional sports, which has over 120 teams. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 teams that you can justify that with, and the New York Jets is certainly in that conversation.
Well, Josh knows. Yeah. Josh is a Jets fan himself. He knows.
Oh, Josh, when does winning teams pay the bills? I mean, playing you guys pays the Buffalo Bills quite a bit.
Yeah, I was about to say. I read that. I think, it is one of the few. The Jets are one of the few fan bases that, even if it is in your bloodline, it is acceptable to switch from. I will. That is a hill I will die on. I am sorry.
That's. I mean, in my opinion, totally valid. It's
a circular firing squad that doesn't it's a circular firing squad. I know I'm not a front runner because I switched in week 2.
Not only is he not a front runner, but if you don't remember the season that happened before this, that was probably the worst time to be an Eagles fan since Peterson got fired. So that is probably the last time.
Josh loves stirring the pot a little bit.
I've heard it all. It's fine.
I can tell. Josh and Jay and Brandon and I on this show, I think would just set me whatever they call them, Nielsen ratings or whatever. But that being said, we got to go get some baseball in. We got to go get some. I don't know about y'all, but I got to go get some dinner in.
I'm gonna do them. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the Men in Black thing, like the memory wiper. I was never a Jets fan. I don't remember being.
You young bucks.
I love
How old
it.
is this sucker?
Well, Josh knows I've never flip-flopped. I've never changed for nobody, or nothing.
The only team that I've changed on was the Brooklyn Nets, and that was for off-court reasons.
Listen, long-suffering Nets fan, and I will continue to be. I am a masochist when it comes to Brooklyn Nets basketball.
It had nothing to do with the encore. If they were 0-82, I'd still be a Nets fan right now. It was because of the all the other crap that happened. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's partially why I was done with the Jets. I mean, like, Woody, let Woody go be ambassador to the UK again.
Okay, I had no idea what you were trying to say. Now I got you. You guys would call me the old man, get off my lawn guy, bro. I would call you.
Josh, you're not old. You're the same age as my uncle. Like, but that's not old. Like, I don't consider your early 40s old. I don't.
He's in his early 40s. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
I don't consider that old.
Based on some of these comments, I would call him that if he was my age. So, but just all in good spirits, Josh. Hope you're doing well. All right, I'll try this for the fourth time. We'll see y'all next week.
See you next week, guys.